After being blasted and blobbed one too many times, I pondered over the N+1 meta, and thus began the exploration of electronic warfare. In short, E-War, electronic warfare decreases the enemy's effectiveness in battle using electronics-based modules. It is often categorized as a force multiplier, because without actually dealing any direct damage, electronic warfare can make a fleet several times more dangerous than it otherwise would be. Each of the 4-player races specializes in one of these types of electronic warfare, and has ships specially bonus to that type. All 4 of these types of electronic warfare effects are generated by mid-slot modules with similar, but not identical fitting and capacitor requirements. Additional forms of electronic warfare are tackling modules to hold the enemy in place, and capacitor warfare modules to drain or steal capacitor. Of the 4 main types, we start with weapon disruptors from Amarr Empire, which deals debuff to enemy weapons, lowering their effective range and damage application. This pairs with the normally tanky Amarr ships, allowing them longer time on target in a battle, and thus increases the total applied damage to the target. The Crucifier is the Amarr electronic warfare frigate, with bonuses to weapon disruption. There are 2 kinds of weapon disruptors, each of which has 2 effects. 1, tracking disruptors, which decrease the range and accuracy of enemy turrets, and 2, guidance disruptors, which decrease the range and precision of enemy launchers. Next is target painters from the Minmatar Republic. These increase the target's signature radius, effectively making the target an easy-to-hit target for the 1600mm howitzers, which have bad tracking, and thus struggle to apply damage to targets with significant angular velocity. This module, interestingly, benefits the entire fleet, as a single target-painted target ship will have the increased signature radius visible to all ships. The Vigil is the Minmatar War Frigate. It has bonuses to target painting effectiveness and range. Target painting can be situationally useful when damage-dealing ships need help to apply their damage to elusive targets. However, due to stacking penalties on target painters' effects, fleets of any size usually only need a few target painting ships. Next comes the Caldari electronic countermeasures, also called jamming. This module, on each cycle, gets a % chance to jam the locked target. If successful, the locked target loses all locks and can only lock the jamming ship. Normally, the jamming ship is kept far away from enemy weapons range, thus effectively stopping the high-slot weapons damage from the jam ship for some seconds, after which the jammer needs to apply the jam successfully again. The Griffin is the Caldari Tech 1 electronic warfare frigate, specializing in ECM. Although the Griffin is cheap and requires few character skills, it can have a significant battlefield impact. In group PvP combat, the Griffin is a powerful force multiplier. Because of its cheap cost and low SP requirements, groups living in dangerous space often also keep spare Griffins in their hangars, ready to jam tackle off when a friendly PvE ship is attacked. And then we come to the Galante Federation sensor dampeners, also called DAMPs. This module, when activated on an enemy, reduces the target locking range and sensor resolution. Thus, the enemy ship takes longer to lock and has a lower max locking range. DAMPs is always applied on all module cycles, unlike the jams of Caldari. Thus, with DAMPs a fleet might kite the enemy fleet. With multiple ships equipped with DAMPs, critical ships from the enemy fleet may get removed from the fight, as they may have a targeting range so low as to be of no use. The Mollis is the Galante electronic warfare frigate, specializing in remote sensor dampening, or DAMPs. DAMPs are most often used to reduce the lock range of enemy targets. The Mollis is probably the most capable combat ship of the 4 Tech 1 war frigates. It has the most hit points, can be fit with a respectable tank, and can field combat drones with a control range that matches its lock and war module's ranges. Nevertheless, the Mollis still can't win most direct engagements, and pilots should expect to warp away from incoming trouble rather than facing it head-on. For this reason, many Mollis pilots omit weapons from their fits entirely. Now, we shall mention 2 cruisers specifically, the Curse and the Hugin. These 2 infamous ships are specialized in capacitor warfare and stasis webification. The Curse is the undisputed king of capacitor warfare. Its range bonuses allow its hefty neuting capacity to reach out to an obscene range. This synergizes well with the standard Amarr turret disruption bonus, allowing excellent mitigation of any turret boat DPS, and the standard drone bonus gives cap-free, high slot-free, selectable and flexible DPS utility. The curse is universally recognized as a huge force multiplier. Expect to be primaried when flying one in a gang or fleet. Also, as a combat recon ship, the curse doesn't appear on the directional scanner, making its presence a nasty surprise for opponents arriving on grid. The Hugin is prized for its ability to web targets at a greater range than any other ship in the game, 40 kilometers with T2 webifiers, and up to 60 kilometers with expensive faction webifiers. By using its webs to hold down small, fast targets, the Hugin can stop tackling ships in their tracks, making them vulnerable, and counter small or medium-sized ships that try to use kiting or close-range speed tanking tactics. As a combat recon ship, the Hugin also doesn't appear on the directional scanner, making its presence a nasty surprise for opponents arriving on grid. At last, we shall simulate two small fleets with 2 cruisers and a frigate. The cruisers share the same fit, and one fleet has an war frigate while the other has a Tristan. As they fight, we can see that in this situation, some war frigate is more powerful than others, especially when the war frigate is prioritized by the enemy fleet. Viewers get to see for themselves which Tech 1 frigate is the best,